It's time for To the Max Sports, where we talk about sports. They're just two guys, Max and Drew, in a bar talking all things sports. Well, without the bar. And the beer. Wait, why aren't we in the bar?
I'll tell you what, Jeff, we got one of the catchiest intros.
It's great.
I'm in the shower.
The wonders of stock audio, royalty-free audio.
I love it.
That's what it is. Good evening, y'all. I'm not Max.
You're not Max. Max will, he took the night off. He'll be back at some point. So, Max, when you're ready, come on back. Love to have you. This is the JV squad here. We got Jeff Vexler.
That's right.
With Brother Bob working the knobs.
Oh, man. Can we retire that?
Working the knobs?
Man. That's what he's doing. Of course, I'm Drew, your host.
And comic relief.
Working the knobs.
Little comic relief. Hey, guys, we're coming to you live from the Flying Whipper Production Studios. Again, if you get a chance, hit that like and subscribe button. After the show, all my Facebook friends that I have, I'll have a link down there that you can click on and just hit that button for us. Again, it just kind of helps us get our name out there. So,
man, we've had a week.
Crazy week.
It's been a bizarro week.
I saw a wild fan during an NFL game, and he ran on the field and started. Oh, that was Antonio Brown.
that was Antonio Brown. What'd you think of that?
Well,
were you watching it live first?
No, I was working. Of course.
Okay. But when you saw the replay.
Oh, here.
We got the replay.
We have it.
Oh, let's see that. I love that part where he tries to get it off from the top and he can't
get some help. And one of his buddies is like,
Mike Evans dude, don't do it. Dude, don't do it.
And look at the fans. They're like, I'm going to get me a souvenir. So this must have been a fan cam here.
Oh, yeah, that was a fan cam.
That's definitely cell phone footage.
That's awesome.
And this was off the
broadcast.
broadcast.
We're trying to convince him to keep them on. Obviously, they were unable to.
Yeah.
My comment is, would I take what's going on in his head for that body?
Tell you what, that guy's built like Adonis.
Bob, you would, wouldn't you? You think about that
that's
trade,
a six-pack, man.
Oh, dude, he looks great.
He is ripped.
I mean, he looks great. Am I correct? This is his 11th season in the NFL. Is that right? 9 with the Steelers.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to Google
9 with I believe it's 9 with the Steelers, 2 with the Bucks.
No, and there was a season with the Patriots, sort of.
Yeah. Okay, my bad. I was sort of counting that.
And then he tried to play for the Raiders.
You're right. Okay.
But froze his foot.
Yeah, so it's going to be hard to figure out on how many seasons he's actually played. But okay, so he's 12 years in. He looks great.
Oh, yeah.
He looks great. And he had a good season.
I know. It's just a shame.
He was a little bit away from three $333,000 bonuses.
Is that right?
Yeah.
What were the 3?
Touchdowns, receptions, and I think receiving yards.
Wow.
I think it was 1 touchdown, 55 yards.
So I see a lot of people throwing up hands saying this is a disgust. This is an affront to
slam a helmet down on the ground
to sports and to football. And look, I get it. It certainly appears to be an affront to sports and sporting ways and to football in particular. He's got a mental condition. I think we can for sure say that now.
There's some things going on.
And secondly,
he's got some anger management issues.
Have y'all read about this stuff where he says that his ankle was hurting so bad that he really didn't want to play?
Well, we'll get into that but carry on. I want to touch on
well, go now, because if in fact
the league, he may be covering for himself, because now the league has asked Tampa Bay to kind of put the foot off the gas for a minute and let's size what's going on, because
make them show their cards.
Well, they're afraid of a potential lawsuit if he comes back and says, "Hey, I was told to play hurt," which I don't.
Which
think
is
that's the
every
case.
other player that's ever played in the NFL.
I mean,
it's part of
he didn't look hurt walking off the field.
He sure didn't.
And there's 2 things I've always said: don't give yourself your own haircut. and never quit on your team. I can't speak to his haircut, but he definitely quit on the team. And it's sad because, I wished him the best. And he was just having too many issues with the vaccination deal and the freezing foot and the DoorDash driver he assaulted or whatever was going on with that. It just
he's a headache. There's no doubt about it. I mean, the fact that Mike Tomlin put up with him for 9 years is pretty amazing.
A lot because he's a player's coach.
He is.
You know, and Arianstal counts as a player's coach.
So if I'm not mistaken, though, Tampa Bay has not cut him.
Nope.
They have not, because the league is asking him to take a step back. And I think the league's in the process of maybe covering themselves against any kind of retribution if he comes back on the league and says, I was told to go play and I can't. I was hurt. And he told me to get out there and then kick me off.
Yeah, but there's enough of a track record of weirdness in that boy's head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm old enough to call anybody of that age a boy, a kid.
You are.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm not on camera. But I don't mind the antics. I don't even mind him taking off his pads and jersey on the sidelines. I actually don't even mind him parading around half naked in the end zone. Don't quit on your team. Don't quit on your team.
I'm just saying, if they haven't cut him, are they considering that they might bring him back? Because honestly,
they don't have a receiver.
Tampa Bay can't win without him. They cannot. They cannot go deep.
Well, they could beat the Jets.
Okay, they could beat the Jets. They could beat a first round opponent theoretically without him. But I can't see them making a real run worthy of Tom Brady's season without him. They almost have to have him. And if they're not cutting him now,
personally, I think that's his career going down the toilet.
Well, you don't think he's ever going to play again?
I don't.
I'd put money on him playing again.
If this had been maybe his first, maybe his second, maybe his third incident, but it's just becoming too problematic. Now, if he comes out, if he's smart, he comes out, reads a statement, says, yes, I've got some mental health issues I need to work on. I need to take some time away from the game, work on those issues, and he addresses it. And then he comes back a year from now and says, hey, this is what I did. And he takes accountability and responsibility, then maybe.
I would not hold your breath on that. That's just not how AB does it. I mean, that's not what he did with the Raiders.
But if he doesn't do that, he's gone, dude. He's gone.
I don't know. I think Tampa Bay would probably. I mean, we've seen Brady do this.
Well, you heard Arians after the press conference. He said he is no longer a Buck. And
he did say that.
So did Brady. Basically, hey, I wish him well. And then the league stepped in the next day and said, time out.
And maybe giving Tampa Bay coverage, but at the end of the day, they don't have a receiving core.
They don't.
They don't. And
without Godwin injured, Evans on his own, not good enough.
Yeah, I can't imagine though any scenario after that he comes back. It'd just be way too much of a distraction.
Well, I mean, you have Cyril Grayson, who I think was a butler for Downton Abbey before running track for LSU. Didn't play in college at all. And this is what Tom Brady does. He finds some guy who was pulling Slurpees at the local 7-Eleven and throws touchdowns to.
Who's the little white dude? Scotty Miller, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, he finds.
Is that his name?
I can't remember.
Did I get that right? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. The little white guy. They'll figure out a way to utilize him like he's Wes Welker, and they're still going to be okay.
But now, I believe maybe anticipation of whatever might have come out down the road. Didn't they pick up Perryman from Chicago when he got released?
Rashad Perryman? Yeah, it would have to be.
The receiver Perryman, yeah. He's a good veteran, and maybe Bob's looking at that, but I think he's on the roster.
Yeah. Maybe they'll be okay. They still don't have a secondary. That's a huge problem. And I know we're going to talk a little more in depth about the NFL playoffs and future matchups coming up here in a little while, but the Bucs need Antonio Brown.
Yeah. I wish him well, but I don't see him taking another snap in the NFL again. We'll see.
Do you really wish him well?
I do.
Okay.
No, I mean,
seems like you kind of don't. Seems like you're kind of don't let the door hit you.
Hey, all of us can reflect on issues we've had in our life. And one of the first steps of getting help, and obviously he needs help, is addressing whatever issue you have and taking accountability for it. That's the first step in any program.
Yeah, you're right.
Take accountability. And then that's what he's got to do. And I really don't believe unless he takes accountability, which you said isn't his way.
I don't think that's what he's going to do.
But his talent level is so high. If he was third or fourth on the depth chart, we're not having this conversation.
Oh, no doubt. He's
two, he doesn't make it past the second or third year.
Next year he's 35, and I understand he's got talent, but he's going to be 35 years. Now, if he was 24, 25 years old, had 7, 8, 9 years ahead of him, then I'd say,
coaches suffer through headaches for talent all the time. But you're right. He's probably too old and probably not talented enough still.
So what you're saying now that Gallup went down, Jerry Jones may call him?
Well, no, the big question is Terrell Owens. If Terrell Owens is actually offering his services to the Bucs, which I read earlier today, no, you got to do it. You got to do it.
Yeah.
I want to see it. I'm just saying I want to see it.
I think Brady's going to be like, we proceed with our troops. I'm the general. He's not going to want some kind of sideshow going on.
Did you look up the little white dude they got?
I don't know how to do a Google search for the little white dude.
It shouldn't be hard because there's probably not that many little white dudes.
I'm telling you, it's like Miller.
Let's do this while we're looking for the little white dude that's through to Brady through to.
Yeah.
CFP semifinal blowouts. Bob has it here on the screen. Now, they were blowouts, but the little engine they could. Cincinnati actually.
Oh, come on!
Dude,
what are you about to say?
It was 10-3 at halftime. Right.
Oh, okay.
And if they had gone down and scored right after, which they actually should have, I'm not saying they would have won the game, but they didn't look as bad as Hairball in Michigan.
Hairball.
I will give you that. Jeff and I were talking a little earlier. The tragedy of New Year's weekend was we had those crap for watch games on New Year's Eve. And then on New Year's Day, the games that none of us cared about, well, I did not care about, were actually ended up being good.
They're really good.
Good games.
The Ohio State game was awesome.
Yeah, that was an outstanding game.
I was rooting so hard against your Buckeyes, and the Utes just couldn't pull it off.
I'm going to drink, but I'm not going to drink to that. Breaking out an old standby.
By the way, we were talking about money a minute ago. How much do you owe me for my prediction on the Alabama wipeout of Cincinnati?
Well, okay, there's a difference between 52-10 and 33-6. The last time I counted, it's about
It's not that much. Do the counting. It's fine.
There's 25 points.
It was a whooping. It was a whooping.
The second half, the breeding took over. But the first half, they hung around in the first half.
It wasn't a close football game.
So
I didn't say it was.
Yeah. So what do we think?
But it wasn't a 52-10 blowout.
It was 30 to 6.
I think 33.
33-6. Okay.
It just shows we have the top of the SEC, because I think the rest of the SEC went 0 in bowl games.
Yeah.
And then the top of the SEC goes 2-0. So we have the top of the SEC and the rest of college football. Yeah. It just shows that between, Alabama, Georgia, and then the gap to the next team is huge.
Well, maybe that is the thing that you take away from it, is that the top of the SEC is just that much better than everybody else, because LSU looked atrocious last night. Like, not like a real college football team. The Aggies didn't even play, so I'm sure they'd like to have a word, but, they don't get to because you didn't play. Yeah. Maybe that's the deal, is that the class of the SEC is just that good. I'm going to be honest. I kind of hate college football. Kind of hate it. I want to see good games. And you know what college football never gives you? Good games.
It's been a while, but there's been some college championship games have been pretty good. And
Georgia is looking for advice on how to beat Alabama. If you'll indulge me for about a 2.5 minute side trip.
You think you got it all figured out?
Well, let's just watch this.
Okay.
Okay, we all know the situation. I have a 7-game losing streak against Alabama. Now, everyone in this room has one thing in common. You've all beat them. So help me! Clemson, you blew them out in 2019. What do you have for me?
Well, you need a generational talent at quarterback.
Yep, right there. Once in a lifetime talent.
I concur.
Talking about Bo Nix down there?
Soon. We don't have that. We have a fifth-year senior former walk-on. Ew.
Okay, look, you don't need generational talent at quarterback. You just need that one average player that has the best game of his life.
Preach. He did tear it up against Michigan in the semis.
Also, a huge home field crowd advantage is a must.
Critical.
Absolute must.
Everyone plays way over their heads at home.
Might be the most important element of this whole thing. So, where are you playing?
In a generic Midwestern neutral site, 9.5 hours away from our home stadium.
Okay.
Okay, then it goes into
That is great.
that's one of my favorite YouTube channels to throw some props. SEC Shorts about every week.
Cool.
They also have a running gag between Georgia fans and hope.
Yeah, that's really good right there, by the way.
So
Really
what do we
good
think?
stuff.
Who's going to win this Georgia-Alabama game?
I'll take Alabama again, and I'll take them.
drifting. I had Georgia to win it all. Started the season. My money's my money and my mind are starting to drift towards Alabama.
Let me ask you this. You're a college football fan, aren't you?
Sure.
I'm kind of not. Like, what I want to watch are great games, great matchups, particularly. And in the NBA and in the NFL, that's the way I view those sports, as I look through tonight's NBA
The
matchups.
62nd game of the year in LA. And
I don't care.
So,
Honestly, if you just follow the great matchups, if it's Golden State versus Brooklyn or Golden State versus whomever else,
Okay.
those are going to be excellent matchups. And if you watch the NFL, it's not about, the Redskins versus the Giants. It's a classic rivalry. That's going to be a crap football game. Give me the top tiers.
Well, are they playing that game in Washington? Because then there really will be crap, because FedEx Field has a problem with their sewage.
That's right.
Well, we are going back, though, to, with Texas and Oklahoma joining the SEC. There's going to be some, if the Big Ten and Pac-10 can marry up, which there's talk of doing that, it's going to be some great football. Can you imagine third week of the season, you got USC against Ohio State and Oklahoma playing Alabama?
But here's the thing is, I don't care who's historically great. That has nothing to do with it. That's the Redskins versus the Giants. I don't care if they've had wars on the football field for their, entire football lives. I want to see the current class of the NFL battle the current class of the NFL. And this past weekend, as you and I previewed last week, we got one of those. We had the Bengals against the Chiefs, and it was awesome. And I mentioned to you that was the game for me.
Yep.
And I told you I thought the Bengals were maybe a team that was steadily had their arrow pointing up. Maybe they could be that surprise team that wins the Super Bowl. And here they go. They beat the Chiefs on about the most bizarre set of circumstances you could ever have.
That was an offensive powerhouse. 5 yards, 2.5 minutes.
The whole game had been just touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. And then they get inside the 10 and they spend 2.5 minutes trying to get 4 yards. It was pathetic, but nonetheless, a great football game.
Yeah.
And I want to watch, those sorts of things. And if you go through a college football calendar, you're not going to find more than 6 games annually that are really must see. And that drives me nuts.
I'm with Jeff on this, though I am going to depart from him. I think the title game is going to be good.
It better be.
If I'm Georgia, I'm like, why did you make me a favor? Because Saban in Alabama is going to use that as rat poison.
I can't believe
That's
they're
scary,
favored.
but Vegas knows what they're doing. They know what they're doing.
Of course they
Georgia
do.
got blown out by Alabama. They were exposed. Their defense was. And then to come out and make them right now, they're 3-point.
Yep.
Yeah. That was one of the 5 best games of the year, by the way.
But
One of those that you had to watch.
But then
it wasn't great.
Yeah. See, but a guy like me is like, man, I'm getting Alabama +3 against a team they blew out. But then you know how these things work. Next thing you know, the game, Georgia's 38 and Alabama's 17. And we're like, why didn't I take Georgia? That's where I like to begin.
They're kids. They're college-age kids, and you never know what's going to happen, really, when you have 18 to 22-year-old athletes taking the field and butting heads. But I'll take Alabama all day long.
Okay, I'm on Alabama, too. When that kid ran the ball, but when he took the team 95 yards against Auburn, that made me a believer.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can't really step up into a bigger moment than that.
Yeah.
Their season was on the line. They had a couple minutes left, and he marches them 95 yards down the field as a true freshman quarterback.
It's Studley, no doubt about it. Do you not see my point about college football, though? That it's kind of a farce?
He's in denial.
Well, no, it's not that I don't, but what do you do about it?
You make the super conferences and you make them play each other.
I think that's
and no Louisiana Lafayettes. None of them. Cut those games out. Those games are a laugh. They're a joke. People get hurt. I don't care if it's a big boon for Louisiana Lafayette.
What's money
Forget
equity?
it.
You know, I mean, they got to have. I just think the mergers of the conferences, you're going to see a lot better quality college football each week.
I think that's true. How many great college football programs would you say there are in the United States?
Great right now or great historically?
Just, yeah. Great on its entirety, because currently
10.
grade is always fluctuating.
10.
I think it's a little more than that.
Might be.
I think it's more like 25 or 30. Okay. I mean, I'm going to include the Wisconsins of the world.
I can't include them as I can include Michigan, but not Wisconsin.
Michigan, Wisconsin, out of the Big Ten, Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio State.
Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State.
Penn State as well. Sorry.
I wouldn't put Wisconsin in there.
I would. Okay. Perennial top 10. Okay. There's 4 out of there. You're going to get 3 out of the Pac-10.
USC, Oregon. Well, Oregon just not. Actually, USC and UCLA. Those
And Oregon. Oregon has to be.
Are we going back 20 years? Or are we going back?
I mean, they have
You said
Nike money. They count. They count. They have a national championship. They count. And the SEC, what? 10 out of the SEC?
No. A&M, Alabama, Florida. Now you got Texas and Oklahoma that I would consider, and Georgia. So I got 6 that are perennial through the years.
Okay, so we're pretty close to 20.
1960 to now, yeah.
Anyway, the NFL annually has how many great teams?
Great team?
Well, this year, none.
It's like 5, 6. So if you could just have these perennially great programs battling each other every single week, you'd have a product that's better than the NFL.
All right, so be ready in September. The first game is Ohio State and Oklahoma, who's, by the way, losing all their recruits right now. Oklahoma. They're bailing out on Venables. Big time.
It doesn't matter. I'm still going to be interested in that football game.
Yeah.
I mean, much more so than if Indiana were playing Ohio State in week 1.
Well, let's talk about a guy that was interested his entire life in football, and that's Dan Reeves. He passed away. So another great one.
Yeah, he was
Do you have
awesome.
a picture of Dan Reeves?
I do.
Now,
There he is.
look at this guy.
Impeccably dressed.
Yeah, I mean, he looks like a banker. That's how they dressed back in the day. And let's see the new age coaches, how they dress. Good God.
You can see his pecker.
It's disgusting. If I saw the guy at Stop and Go, I'd probably offer him a coffee, and he's got his old suitcase with him. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
But he was a sharp.
You a big fan of Dan Reeves?
I'm a fan of anybody that committed their entire life to football. He coached 23 consecutive seasons.
Did he really?
With multiple teams. So that's strong.
535 win percentage, more or less.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yep. One of only 5 NFL head coaches to win 200 career games.
And it was 60% when he was with the Broncos, which is obviously what most of us remember him for. And I will say,
is he a Hall of Famer?
No, not in the Hall of Fame. Of course.
I agree.
I mean, I certainly think of him as one of the more important football coaches of my lifetime growing up watching the sport. I mean, he's in the conversation with Joe Gibbs.
Yeah, I agree.
Joe Gibbs is in the Hall of Fame. So
Gibbs, Reeves, those were the guys who was the Madden. Those were just the guys you grew up watching in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah. Schottenheimer.
Yeah. And I mean, Reeves, a player with the Cowboys before he ever became a coach.
Yeah.
Was actually in 5 Super Bowls as a Cowboy, 4 Super Bowls as a coach, never won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Which I think is one of the reasons why he's not in, but he
never
should
won
be.
any for all the teams.
Just say he was
won
in
one as a Cowboy.
5
Something
Super
like that.
Bowls as a player?
He was in 9 Super Bowls total.
I thought he won one with the Cowboys
9 Super Bowls total?
as an
That
assistant
has
coach.
to be Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
How do you deny a 9 Super Bowl,
Yeah, with a
9-time Super
23-year,
Bowl player?
28-year coaching career, 23 consecutive.
No, that's amazing.
You know, he was just a great coach.
Yeah.
He was. You know, and by the way, when you look back and the Madden death, which we talked about at length last week, and his lifetime winning percentage, which was a very short career, made me look into, hey, what are the greatest win percentages in NFL history?
Yeah.
You will be shocked how low some of the percentages are for other great, presumably great head coaches. It's really surprising. I mean, other coaches that I thought were really good, like
Parcells,
Tom Coughlin and whatever, they're either a little under or a little over 500. Yeah. That's it. Like, there's very few people in the 60s and only one in the 70th percentile.
It's hard, and it speaks to longevity, and it just speaks to, you know, the ability to get teams in your system, having players believe in it, and then going out there and executing your vision.
Wow, this list. I'm gonna pull it up for the people that are watching.
Is that win percentage list?
Win percentages? Yeah.
It's.
Hold on a
I'm
second.
telling you, it's surprising. It's really surprising. Good head coaches, people that in your head, you and I, people of the same age, remember as really good head coaches, are extremely poor.
Well, you
on
were
win
surprised
percentage.
Madden had the highest. I didn't know that.
I did
After
know
he
that.
passed away.
I did know that. But it was partially, because he didn't elongate his career. I mean, Dan Reeves, when he left the Broncos, was over 60%. But then he moves along, he does the Chargers and everywhere else, and he's down to 60%. All right, here we go.
Okay,
Guy Chamberlain.
People that played in the Civil War don't count.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
Here's John Madden, Vince Lombardi,
obviously.
George Allen, Jim Harbaugh with a 69.5 percentage.
Let's talk about Harbaugh.
Madden is the only person in the modern era with a 70% win percentage, which is amazing.
Well, keep Harbaugh up there.
What do you want to talk about Harbaugh?
Now that he had his moment,
He's not going to the NFL. I know where you're going. He's not going to the NFL.
now might be cashing out for the NFL
Why?
because he's a mom's.
I didn't even read.
Sorry,
I didn't even read
I
that.
told Mom I wouldn't curse on the program.
Is that a real thing?
Yeah, there's real talk between the Raiders, the Bears. I don't think he's going back.
But see, here's the
Why
thing.
would he?
I'll tell you why. Because he knows he doesn't have the talent level year in and year out to compete against Ohio State. He certainly, even if he wins the Big Ten, he doesn't have the talent to compete against the SEC. So why sit there and you know that you're not going to be able to recruit the kind of players you need when you can go to the NFL and essentially work with the owner of whoever you decide to go to work for and build a team?
Because a college coach is a god on campus.
Yeah.
He's probably the highest paid. Well, he took a pay cut, so he may not be the highest paid coach or the highest paid public employee in Michigan. Their college coaches are gods on campus.
They are that. And I kind of feel like he enjoys his ego enough to enjoy that situation.
He enjoys his ego enough that he knows that Ohio State's going to own him for the next couple of years. And he knows this was a moment in time. After 8 years, he was going to be fired to start the season if he didn't produce. And he had a magical run, and good for him. But,
I mean,
you know what? I'll sit here.
You make it sound like it was a miracle. He tweaked who he was going into this season. He brought in a lot of youthful assistant coaches. He changed how he coached. He put more on the players. He got rid of his khakis. Did you see him wearing khakis in the last half of the season?
That translates into more wins. I didn't know that.
It obviously did.
Smaller pleats.
So maybe Urban should have gotten some khakis.
Oh, Urban. Didn't Urban coached in khakis? Didn't he?
Well, he got a lap dance in khakis.
That was a good one, Bob.
Yeah, there you go.
Every once in a while, Bob with his pithy comments. But I say if he's smart, he bails out on Michigan, runs out, gone.
You just don't want him in. You just don't.
That's
want him
what
in
I
Michigan
feel
anymore.
like. He just doesn't want him there anymore. He's a little threatened.
I've told you anybody that can make the Big Ten stronger, and I'm just saying, do I want him to stay? I could care less one way or another. but I think he goes because he knows this was his chance, and the teams he has moving forward aren't going to be any better than what he put together this season.
And going quickly on down the list, we have Bill Hoodie Belichick at 11 of 25.
Which is amazing, by the way. That 67% winning percentage in this era.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to find it anywhere else.
Yeah, but when you got Tom Brady as your quarterback, Little Sisters of the Poor could have head coached.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, you missed Paul Brown. He was
Paul Brown at 67. Tony Dungy.
Yeah. So, but
Mike McCarthy?
Yes.
You're kidding me.
Well, that's the Aaron Rodgers
kidding
effect.
me.
Yeah.
He couldn't manage a clock if you strapped it to his chest.
Well, sometimes coaches stumble into good situations.
They do.
Oh, man. George Seifert?
Yeah.
Bruce Arians.
I know you're looking for Bill Walsh. So
I am actually looking for Bill Walsh.
By the way, Mike Tomlin. Can we all agree?
Okay, we'll
actually great head coach.
Good try.
Looking at what's happening with Antonio Brown, yes, absolutely great.
He's
coach.
An actually great head coach. Yeah. So the Steelers, over the last 20 years, and most of that is it's the Cowher Tomlin, put a slash between them timeline. They remind me a lot of the Broncos, who went from Reeves to who was right after Reeves. Anyway, where the Broncos for like 20 years, they were never going to be worse than 7-9. Yeah. And I think there's something really great to say about that, where you're always relevant. I don't remember them ever. Did the Broncos ever have like a 4-win season? Not that I can recall.
I mean, every year they put up 500 plus, except for maybe this year.
Yeah. I mean, look, they took Jake Plummer to the playoffs, right?
Well, speaking of a team, I got something to unveil to you guys. Speaking of a team who's led me to the wilderness since I remember watching football probably in 1972. Got something to unveil for everybody. $1975. This hat was on my head. I was 10 years old. The Cincinnati Bengals original hat.
Oh, wow.
1982. The Ice Bowl. This hat was on my head. Yeah, the year that they lost to Joe Cool. The hat was on my head.
Wow. If you can't put into the end zone after 4 downs, please, you're not going to win.
The great Boomer Esiason, the year they lost to Joe Cool. This hat was on my head.
Was that Sam Weish?
I'm sorry, it was Sam Weish. My bad. You're right.
Sam Weish was the head coach.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
This has been retired through the Andy Dalton years, through all the little dumb bullshit playoff appearances that we had like 6 years ago. And I'm officially, after watching Joe Burrows, T. Higgins, Boyd.
You're back.
I'm back, baby. I'm back with a hat.
Telling you, they're legit, bro. Hat. They're legit. Their defense flies around. I know they gave up a lot of points to Kansas City last week, but they fly around. They seem like they're kind of cohesive. I don't know, man. I think the Bengals are your bet.
What I liked about them is they were 14 points down a couple times, and they kept fighting.
Yep.
And that's something you haven't seen in a Bengals team in a long time.
Bob, will you look up Sam Weich's all-time win percentage?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's shockingly low.
It probably is, because he struggled first couple of years.
And then struggled in his latter years.
Yeah.
Right? But I remember Sam Weish being what I thought was a pretty damn good head coach.
He was
122 and 158.
There you go.
Weish was the guy that actually started
40%?
Something like that.
But he was an innovator in his time. He's the one that started the no huddle.
Yeah.
Which is so cool to watch when he did that.
They did a lot of shotgun there in Cincinnati. He was a really great head coach, I thought.
But the problem is, as always with the Bengals, it's always been management. They just haven't surrounded them, the coaches, with the talent needed to take it to another level. Hopefully they'll keep these young kids. Hopefully they'll work on a few issues on defense in the offseason and, kind of bolster up that offensive line a little bit.
I think you have a lot to hope for. I mean, this play from Burrows to Chase, this is He's surrounded.
Yeah.
And boom.
It's crazy. Look at him separate. It's crazy.
The whole defense is chasing him.
Yeah.
So I think we knew coming out of college that he was that good once the ball was in his hands. But his problem early in the season, at the very least, was catching the football. How many all hands catches did he make this past weekend alone? I think there were 5 where he was just shoving off a defender, catching it all hands, 50 yards downfield. And if he's going to be that guy who can make the hands catches and make the underneath catches, that he can split the defense and turn it into 55, like good night. Like he's the real deal. Because he showed hands like
and that was a big knock against him.
Who was the Texas? I'm going to blank out. Who was the great Texas Tech wide receiver with the big hands? Who scored a bazillion touchdowns for the Raiders? You know what I'm talking about. They call. Oh Lord, never mind.
If you're out there watching, folks,
I'll think of it.
Text Brother Bob.
Yeah. Anyway, he reminds me of him with his hands, but on the ground, he reminds me of Larry Fitzgerald. Yeah. And it's like, wow, if you're going to combine those two things, wow.
Yeah. And
Ocho Cinco,
and the Bengals skills players, I think they're all under 25. Yeah. I mean, you have a lot to hope for. I know. I wouldn't put any money on them, making a Super Bowl run this year. Yeah. They're just too young and inexperienced.
I would.
Well,
I will.
I don't think they're going to do it.
I'm just telling you.
It's going to be tough.
They could.
There's no juggernaut.
But the future is bright.
Well, speaking of bright futures, I mean, when at the 3rd or 4th week of the season, we had written off KC, and look how they've come back. And
but to me, they still don't look a level above everybody else the way they looked in past seasons, right? But in past seasons, Kansas City looked like they had another gear that other teams just couldn't get to. I don't necessarily see that this year. I mean, I see several teams that can get to Kansas City's top gear. And Kansas City's defense, while they're better, I mean, I'm not going to say that they're the team that's going to shut somebody down in the cold weather. Yeah. I mean, and they still can't run the football where, Cincinnati, when they put their minds to it, they kind of can.
Makes it easy.
Which is dangerous. Yeah. Anyway, I just don't think there's a juggernaut. I think if you find good odds on the Bengals, go for it.
Yeah. I wouldn't this week. Burrows is out. Mixon's out on COVID protocol. So I think they're just going to rest most of their players, and maybe Baker Mayfield. Talk about, was it just me, guys? Did you watch that Baker Mayfield against Big Ben?
Of course.
They talk about him being hurt. It looked to me like he just flat out quit. He was going through the freaking motions.
You think?
I think he's gone.
You think?
If they can find
you don't think we're going to see him again this year?
No, he'll play and put up some good numbers against the Bengals because they're going to arrest everybody. But I just don't see it. In that division, look at the young guns. You got Josh
Allen.
You've got Burrows. Mm-hmm. You've got Mahomes. I mean, where do you rank Baker Mayfield on the talent level?
He's the lowest on the totem pole.
But in the NFL, I mean, okay, Mahomes, Brady, Rodgers, that type of talent is going to take a mediocre team and make them great.
Mayfield can't do that.
Brady's going to throw it to Cyril Grayson, the butler, and score a touchdown. All I want my quarterback to do is not lose me a game. Mayfield's been losing games.
Yeah. All year.
And whether it's injuries or something else going on in his head or more, commercials for his home, the stadium, I don't know. But who else? If not Mayfield, who else? This was my argument last year for Prescott. If not Prescott, who else for the Cowboys?
Baker Mayfield, the meme is out there, so I'm not breaking news, but he's just a sober Johnny Manziel.
Pretty much.
I mean, he really is. I mean, he's a turnover waiting to happen. He's inaccurate, which if you're little, you've got to be accurate. Yeah. And he's inaccurate. I mean, the comparisons coming out of college, where could he be Drew Brees? No, man, because he's not that accurate. He overthrows balls on a line when he needs to be lofting them. And he lofts balls when he needs to be darting them. He's just not that good. He's not going to get paid in Cleveland. Okay. So he's gone from there.
Yeah.
And then the question is, who wants him?
Yeah, that's true. And the long search for a Cleveland quarterback will continue.
That's the weirdest
God,
thing.
it's been horrible.
It's the weirdest
Google
thing.
that. I think they've had like 19 quarterbacks in the last.
Oh, it's
19 quarterbacks, 8,000 coaches.
Yeah, it's a franchise.
And I swear to you, I thought Tim Couch was the real deal. I really did. I thought Tim Couch was their guy.
You know who I thought was the real deal, and he didn't turn out. I thought Blake Bortles.
Really?
When he came out,
Really?
that he would be the real deal, but he never.
No, he
just
didn't
never
do a
know.
damn thing.
And I had a lot of my doubts about Joe Burrows. I mean, I'm like, okay, this kid had a great senior season.
Mm-hmm.
Does that translate into an NFL career?
When he was 24, almost 24 years old, by the way. Yeah, I thought the same thing. By the way, I was listening to Trent Dilfer talk about
Super Bowl
Burrow.
winning quarterback, Trent Dilfer?
Yes, that guy. About Joe Burrow the other day. And he was like, there's nothing about Joe Burrow that is exceptional athletically as a quarterback. He's not quick. He doesn't have a great arm. He doesn't have a super quick release. There's nothing off the charts about him. He's not a superhuman. He's not like Josh Allen. He's not like the kid with the Chargers. Yeah. He's not like Herbert. He's not like that. What he is exceptionally tough. And he's a hell of a dude, which means everybody else respects him. Yeah. And it was obvious at LSU that, he was a transfer, came in late, older than everybody, and led everybody, and they believed in him. And obviously it kind of translated that way to Cincinnati, where now everybody believes in that kid. And, you saw him take the hits the other day against Kansas City, pops right back up. Everybody still believes they're winning the football game. There's a little bit, and everybody's making the comparisons to Tom Brady. That's cool. There's a little bit of Joe Montana to him that I love.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far.
I'm just saying he's got that cool factor where it's like people believe in me, man.
No, I believe he believes in himself. I think the team responds well to him, but let's not get our panties in a wad too quickly. I mean, he still hasn't marched a team down 75 yards with a minute and a half left in a meaningful game and won it. When he does that, I'll be a believer, but is he an incredible generational talent? I think if they can keep him upright, he is.
Maybe.
I really do.
And by the way, he takes more hits than anybody else in the entire NFL.
Shame, I mean,
number one in hits taken.
Yeah, that was a silly hit they took on one of the 8 million plays they
inside
had
the
inside
5.
the 10.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, he was hobbling around. I'm like, ooh, this is not good.
They got to protect.
They do.
My voice.
They do got to protect him. No doubt.
Yeah, they definitely have to protect this kid. So,
yeah, go ahead.
NBA.
What do you want to know?
I don't know. I'm going to drink a beer. I'm losing my voice.
Yeah, cool. Me and Mr. Bill are going to talk about it.
Okay.
All right. Hey, Mr. Bill, you've been watching the NBA? No, Jeff, it's still football season. I'm not watching the basketball stuff until the NFL is over. Well, you're missing out on an awesome season.
Are we?
Yeah. First of all, watching Golden State every single night is an absolute traveling circus. You have to watch it. It's beautiful basketball. They beat the hell out of teams, and they play basketball the right way. Steph Curry has off nights, and they still win with guys that you've probably never heard of, okay? I mean, obviously, you know Draymond Green, but other than that, you're probably not going to know a single other one of his teammates. Honest to goodness, which is kind of cool. Best record in the league. Milwaukee has been through COVID all year long, and they're still hanging around at the top of the East, and they're going to be back in the NBA, at least in the Eastern Conference Finals against Brooklyn, which is your almost undoubted final two from the East. But Chicago's making a push, and they're fun. Former Spur DeMar DeRozan, who we love.
All of a sudden, though, he can hit game-winning shots, which he could never do. I mean, he'd score 28, 30 points for San Antonio, but he wasn't the guy that, with 30 seconds left, he just couldn't execute. Last week, he was.
You're absolutely right. If there was one criticism of DeMar DeRozan, it was that if the clock was under a minute, I didn't feel like he was going to come through. It was weird because I thought when the clock got to 5 minutes, he was going to be great from 5 minutes until 1 minute. And then after 1 minute, he was going to be terrible. All of a sudden, he's grown. He's found the next level of his game. And by the way, I don't think enough can be said for how much his game expanded once he left Toronto and came to San Antonio. Totally different guy. His assist numbers way up. His playmaking, which doesn't always result in assists, way up.
Yeah.
And he's had 2 straight game winners, which is just, awesome. And, Spurs fans are like, well, why did we get rid of him? Hey, man, we had to. He's not on our timeline.
Yeah, they're going with a youth movement. He didn't fit in at all.
And we got what we needed for him, okay, which is fine. And good for DeMar going out there. And he's going to make a huge playoff push with Chicago, because I think Chicago has one more deal to make. And they may be making it maybe with the Suns or somebody else, but they have a deal to make with Patrick Williams, who's their former first-round draft choice from a year ago, who's an all-league kind of potential defender, but he's been injured all season. There's somebody like the Spurs who might be interested in taking on a Patrick Williams for the future, while giving the Bulls something in return that they can use right now to make that leap to be able to be competitive with Brooklyn and the Bucks.
I can see that.
It could happen.
Do you see in the next couple of years saying the Las Vegas Spurs?
No way. 0 chance. Why?
They're not filling up the stadium.
What else is new?
Well, they filled up the stadium when they had the big 3.
Not really. Not really. At the end of the Duncan era, it was a pretty hard sell.
But I've watched a couple games, and it's bad. It looks like a WNBA game.
Guess what? Bad NBA teams do not fill stadiums. I mean, take a look at Orlando or Sacramento or anybody else who's crummy. I mean, Memphis, when they went down in the tubes, nobody was going to those games. And it wasn't because Memphis didn't love the Grizzlies. It was because they were bad. If you have a not very good product out there and you're not going to the playoffs, you're not going to get the fans. But
Does
the Spurs
Vegas ever get a team? With the success of
definitely
NFL?
Vegas gets a team.
So then you'd have to do some more expansion, wouldn't you?
Well, there's an expansion coming for the NBA, because they have to put another team in Seattle.
See,
they have to. That has to happen.
My passion for the NBA is waned as much as yours has grown, because at the end of the day, they play 162 games.
That's baseball.
No, that's baseball.
However many they play.
82.
80.
Which is too long. I mean,
I'm being.
But 17 is too long in the NFL, and 162 is too long in baseball.
Hear me out, though.
Okay.
And I know last year was a weird year because of COVID, but at the end of the day, you're pretty much going to see the same 4 or 5 teams slugging it out for the conference championship. You can't say that in football. You can't say that in baseball.
I know,
And so-
but I agree that that's true, because most years when I, go to my book and I start making bets, I know pretty damn well the 8 teams that are going to be in the playoffs from each conference. And now it's 10 because of the play-in, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I can pretty well tell you at least 3 of the 4 semifinal teams for the NBA.
Yeah.
You
That's
can't
my
do
point.
that in the NFL.
Or baseball.
Yeah, you really can't do that in baseball either. You're right. However, I think there's something great about having people at the top of the mountain, the Duke in college basketball, where when they come into the season, man, they got Zion Williamson, and they have the 5 All-Americans coming in, and they're going to be there at the end. I have no problem with that.
Speaking
and
of Zion,
you live
this
an
is-
entire season trying to knock the eagle off its perch. I'm cool with that.
and
That kid, go ahead.
And there are 5 teams with lower average attendance than the Spurs right now.
See, there you go.
You got the Grizzlies, the Kings, the Thunder, the Pistons.
And the
Pacers.
Grizzlies are damn good, by the way. The Grizzlies have a chance to, first of all, they're going to win the Southwestern Division. I mean, they're going to beat Dallas. Okay. They're going to win our division. And nobody saw that coming.
Yeah.
And they're good and they're
So I was
fun.
going to ask you who your surprises were.
Well,
So
the 2
Memphis.
big surprises are easy: Cleveland and Memphis.
Okay.
I mean, I think everybody thought that Memphis would be a little bit improved, but they're much improved. Everybody thought that Cleveland was going to be crummy, and it turns out they're not crummy at all.
Now we
They're
got
good.
Rondo. Will Rondo mess them up?
No, Rondo will help them. They lost Ricky Rubio about 10 days ago
He
to a
always gets hurt.
season-ending injury,
And it's
and
like
they
his
need veteran
fifth. Seems like-
leadership.
Seems like every year he's going down.
Rubio's a great player and
he's healthy.
underappreciated. But Rondo will do the Rubio thing for their second unit, and that's all you're asking from him.
Who's your biggest disappointments? Lakers?
Oh, it's not even close.
And who else?
Other great disappointment.
Can the Lakers right the ship?
No, Lakers are done. They're done. I mean, you want to tell me they win one series in the playoffs? Sure, I can buy that. Okay. Or that they're a tough out in the second round. That's fine. But they're not good. They're not good. It's a terrible roster. Russell Westbrook was a terrible addition next to LeBron James. And people like me were saying from the beginning, why the hell would you be doing that to Rob Pelinka? It was a terrible decision. Nobody saw that working out. Nobody.
You had mentioned a name that I was watching some stuff the other night, and this kid's a beast. But even when he came out of college, I'm like, dude, with your knees and your size, even his gait back then was kind of weird. And I know because I have bad knees, but Zion Williamson's eating himself out of the league.
Yeah.
A la Charles Barkley.
Yeah. Well, that's the irony of that is that, of course, he was taken number 1 overall by the New Orleans Pelicans. And number 2 was Ja Morant to the Memphis Grizzlies. And I think the Grizzlies, were like, oh, shucks, we missed out on the great player of this draft by 1 pick. Yeah. No, they got the great player from that. Ja Morant is that guy.
Yeah,
he's the transcendent talent. And Zion Williamson last year, when he was healthy, was putting up numbers that nobody has ever seen before.
No.
Field goal percentage, steals, rebounds, points per game. His what is the metric? PPR. His PPR was as high as anybody has ever seen. I mean, it was like Jordan level stuff where like you can't replicate that. Nobody has ever replicated that. But if he's not healthy and if he's eating his way out of the league, which it certainly seems like you're right that he is.
I mean, when he joined, he was 285, and I thought he should have been a minimum 265. So he's 20 pounds overweight when he got in the league. And now I read he's a couple fries short of 318 pounds.
Yes.
And the toll that's going to take on your knees and your body,
it's not going to last.
It's not going to last.
And a lot of people predicted that when he was drafted, that like unless he lost weight and got himself in shape, that it was never going to work out, and it hasn't.
Yeah. So hopefully he'll commit himself to a program and take off about 50 pounds, and I think he'll be an amazing
Then he'll
player.
be back. Yeah.
Anything else, folks?
I don't think so. I think we actually went really, really long tonight. So.
All right.
Oh, well, that was easy.
We may have one viewer left or someone listening in the car.
Much love to my children.
Yeah, if you have a 50-minute commute, we're sorry for you. Though if you drive on I-95 on the East Coast, your commute is like 25 hours.
Yeah.
Plug all their viewing and listening options real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music Podcasts, all the podcast places. We're on the YouTube, and we're probably going to start to get some other stuff out there. I think we're going to get a Twitter. So we can talk when we're not talking, and then make really, really stupid statements about people.
About it.
Well, one thing we always have is hot sports opinions. Well, Jeff,
I enjoyed it, Andy.
This is your third show.
Yeah, it is.
So, you made the squad.
What is that?
This is your official To The Max sports hat.
Oh my God.
You made
Are
the squad.
you kidding me?
I don't even have an effing hat.
I gave you one when we first started.
Okay.
Oh man, look at that.
That's sure we're on the golf course.
Handsome to the max.
That looks good, man. I like that brim. It's straight.
I'm old school.
The good looking guy. Look at me.
Yeah.
I'm warmed over death.
Thanks,
all right,
Andy,
guys.
Bob.
Yeah.
And
guys.
Max for not being here.
Well, Max will be here. Max always has an open invitation. Guys, really enjoyed it. Always have fun. If you're still around, please hit that like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week. New time, 7 p.m. every Wednesday.
Yeah. We actually need to tell our host that it's actually 7:00.
Yeah.
My bad.
Hey, you made it.
No, not your bad.
But he brought A game.
Okay, there we go. And we are out.